Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head over to Michigan in America once again, and we're going to do my 5th visit to Grand Rapids and Founders Brewing Company. And this one, it should be a pretty special review today. This is one of the top 10 stouts in the world apparently, so we're going to have a look at the Kentucky Breakfast Stout today, which comes in at 12.4%, so it's a bit of a monster. It's rated 100 overall on Rate Beer and 100 within the style too, so this one should be something pretty special. This beer is supposed to be along the lines of the Speedway Stout from AleSmith, the barrel aged version. It's in the top 10 in the world, so that tells you this should be something pretty special. So I'm really interested to try this, and I feel quite privileged that I managed to pick up a bottle of it through Systembolagets small portier range. So pretty cool that we actually got it here in Sweden, because obviously with the nationalised beer shop we have a limited selection, but should be a pretty damn awesome review. But anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you do want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the Founders website, my other reviews I've done from Founders before. More will be added in the near future, of course, and there's all the usual social media. Make sure you check that out. If you want to see more beer reviews, do subscribe to the channel. And as always, to those of you watching in Michigan and in the US, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other Michigan and American beers that you guys would like to see me review. I'd love to hear from you guys and see what other beers I can get a hold of. But anyway, to tell you a little bit about Founders Brewing Company. So the brewery was originally founded in 1997 as the Canal Street Brewing Company in Grand Rapids, Michigan. They were founded by Mike Stevens and David Engbers, and the two were home brewing enthusiasts and had actually only recently graduated from university at this point, but they both had quite steady jobs. But soon after, they decided to quit their jobs and follow their passions, drawing up a business plan and eventually founding the brewery itself. So in the 1800s, several breweries had operated in the Canal Street area of Grand Rapids, and this area is apparently now called Monroe Avenue, and the original labels on the beers were black and white photos of the original Canal Street breweries with the word Founders above it, and this meant that the brewery became known locally as Founders Brewing Company. Of course, that was later changed to be the official name of the brewery. But in the early days, the brewery ran very close to bankruptcy because they were brewing kind of quite, balanced ales, but they weren't special in the same way that the Founders beers are today. But at this point, the brewing team decided to really change what they were doing, and they became known for their kind of full flavoured beers after they made this transition. But the company philosophy is that we don't brew beer for the masses. Instead, our beers are brewed are crafted for a chosen few, a small cadre of renegades and rebels who enjoy a beer that pushes the limits of what is commonly accepted as taste. In short, we make beer for people like us, and as many of you will know, Founders have some pretty full flavoured beers. But since the mid-2000s, the brewery has grown substantially, and they now produce about 340,000 barrels of beer per year, and the sales market is constantly growing. As I said, I've got this one here in Sweden, and they also have a tap room at the brewery which overlooks the actual facility, and the customers can get a view of the team brewing beer. And they also throw their annual festival called Founders Fest in the street in front of the brewery, and it's actually shut down, and they've got several music acts and local food vendors and all this sort of thing. So if you ever find yourself in Grand Rapids, Michigan, make sure you time it so that you can go to the Founders Fest too, and you will get some pretty awesome beers. These guys are particularly impressive in my opinion for their darker beers. Just to list a few of these beers for you, in their year-round range, they've got the All Day IPA, Centennial IPA, the Pale Ale, the Porter, and the Dirty Bastard, the Scotch Ale. In the year-round draft, there's the Red Rye IPA, the Nitro Pale Ale, and the Nitro Oatmeal Stout. Their seasonals are Red Rye IPA, Rubaeus, and the Breakfast Stout. And they also have in their specialty range the Imperial Stout, the Curmudgeon Old Ale, which you saw me review recently, and Double Trouble. And they also have the Backstage series, which are experimental beers brewed only for the tap room. And these are, I think they're only served on tap, actually in the tap room. You can't even buy them as bottles, so they are pretty special. But yeah, that's enough about the brewery for the moment, and we'll actually get on to the tasting of this beer itself. Like I said, 12.4% Imperial Stout, one of the top 10 beers in the world. So this one is available only in April, and it says on the back here, Founders KBS. What we've got here is an Imperial Stout brewed with a massive amount of coffee and chocolates, then cave aged in oak bourbon barrels for an entire year to make sure the wonder bourbon oak undertones come through in the finish. Makes your taste buds squeal with delight, and so I'm sure it will do. But I'll just let you have a little quick look at the artwork on this one, because it is a little bit different from the other Founders beers. There you can see the standard Founders bottle cap on this one, but you can see this one is a little bit more plain than the other ones. The other ones do have certain designs on here. You can see the import sticker for Systembolaget. It's actually imported by Wicked Wines of Sweden from Täby, which is up near Stockholm, if I remember correctly. But yeah, it should be a really nice beer. So we'll get this one out and get onto the tasting here. I'm really looking forward to this one. I should dedicate this review as well to one of my dedicated followers, Fabrizio Rossi, in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. He got really excited when he saw on Instagram that I got a bottle of this beer to review, so I'll dedicate this one to him, and if I do come across this beer, I will be sure to buy him a bottle and send it down, because he sent me a couple of Brazilian beers and Icelandic things and that, so I need to repay the favour and send him one of these if I come across it again. So Fabrizio, I hope you and Tatiana enjoy the review. So yeah, as you can see, this beer has poured the typical ebony rosewood colour. There's a finger of a frothy beige tan head on this one, and it looks really nice. There's some big bubbles sticking to the side of the glass at the bottom, quite a lot of little ones going up towards the bottom of the head there. If I put my fingers behind it, you can see there's no transparency to this at all. It's a typical looking Imperial Stout, but it looks very, very nice. So just taking in the aroma without paying too much attention to it, you can actually smell, just as the beer pours, you can smell a sweet chocolate. You can smell some of that underlying coffee malt in this beer. It smells really nice. But if you pay more attention to it and go closer to it, you really do get those coffee beans coming out of this beer. That kind of, it's a more earthy coffee for me, a more earthy and slightly grassy coffee that's coming out of this one. You can smell that in this beer. And of course, when it's a coffee stout, that's exactly what you would expect. So if we sugar it up a bit more, we start to get the chocolate. We get more of the chocolate coming out, but really the aroma is heavily dominated by the coffee notes. You can smell a little bit of the vanilla and kind of nutty, woody notes that you would expect from the bourbon barrel aging. Earthy hops in there too. It does smell a little bit grassy. Really, those coffee beans are coming out quite a lot. There's not too much of a sweet aroma to this one for me. It really does smell quite dark and earthy coffee. It smells definitely like a coffee stout, and when it's a breakfast stout, you know, that's probably what it's going to be. But yeah, you can smell a bit of the booze on this too. It's 12.4%, so it is a bit of a monster. But yeah, I would stick with that. It's coffee malt dominating the aroma. It's quite earthy, slightly grassy coffee. You can pick up some of the vanilla in there, some of the woody kind of nutty aromas that come with the bourbon barrel aging. There's a bit of earthy hop in there as well. You can, when you let it settle a bit, get some sweet kind of milky chocolate, maybe some darkness in there too, some dark chocolate. But overall, it does smell quite nice to me. It comes across definitely as more of a kind of coffee stout. So savour the aroma of this one. As I say, it's a very special beer, available only in April. And I got this one. I'm filming this review for you on the 21st of May 2016, the day, it came out yesterday actually, in Systembolaget. So this beer is pretty fresh actually if it's available in April. So we'll get stuck into this one now. So this is the Kentucky Breakfast Stout from Founders Brewing Company. Comes in at 12.4%, one of the top 10 Imperial Stout beers in the world. So this one, it should be pretty awesome. Let's get stuck in to Fabrizio and Tatiana down in Rio. Slange. Oh yeah. Now I tell you first off, you think this beer is going to be really, really coffee-ish, but coffee stouts for me are a bit more of an acquired taste. And this is beautiful. You'll see that right away why this beer is so highly rated. You can taste the booze in it. First off, you'll notice that at 12.4%. It's difficult to hide it. You can taste that the booziness is there, but the actual flavour covers it well. You know, you pick up the maltiness of this beer right away. The malt, of course, always covers the alcohol booziness, but you do start to feel the warmth as it just goes down into your stomach. But yeah, that's a really nice beer. I've not reviewed too many coffee stouts on the channel actually, and it's something that I need to change, because I had a really nice one, Milkafeel, from I think it was Browar Perun, or Browar Raden in Poland, and that was really nice. That was one of the first coffee stouts that I've reviewed actually, and it turned out really well. Also one from the Projekt series at Popos here in Sweden, and it's really kind of changed my opinion of the style. And if this is kind of one of the sort of pinnacle beers of the style, then I can see why, and it's a style I guess now that I need to get more into. Because what is obvious from this one is that this is a pretty damn awesome beer. There's no doubt about that. I can see why this is so highly rated. Coffee stouts, like I say though, is a style I've not encountered too much, but this is pretty damn good. So yeah, as I always say with these dark beers, for tasting purposes, sugar the beer around your palate and just try and take in all these different flavours before you sort of analyse it a bit too much. But yeah, this is pretty damn good. So, the middle of your palate actually, it kind of feels a bit surprisingly light. I was expecting the beer to be a bit more chewy and oily than this. So the middle of your palate, you've just got this light bready character that goes right across the middle of the tongue, and on top of that, you get these really complex notes. You can feel the coffee beans in there, quite roasted actually, almost like some kind of black malt character. There's a bit of cocoa in there too, but there's a definite kind of coffee underlining to this beer, and it is quite smooth, but at the same time, it has a good bit of bitterness to it. You can also get some nice kind of milky chocolate, but there's also a good bit of darkness to it as well. I'd say it probably leans more towards the dark side of the chocolate, but you get that little coffee roasted bitterness just moving out towards the sides of your palate where the hops come out, but the sweeter chocolate notes are in the middle. Maybe there's a little bit of treacle and molasses in there too, but you can pick up on the woody kind of oaky characters in this beer, and there's definitely vanilla mixing in with the chocolate side of things as well. Yeah, this is definitely a nice beer. This is really, really good actually. Yeah, so the malt side of things has got some really interesting notes. You can taste the bourbon barrel aging. For me, being Scottish of course, you can taste the difference between Scotch whiskey barrel aging, Irish whiskey barrel aging, and the American bourbon barrels. Bourbon for me it's quite different, and it must just be the different woods they use. American oak, of course, I think it's even a completely different species of tree from European oak, and you can really taste that in the wood. Actually, the vanilla flavours are different, and even just the taste of the whiskey is actually different itself too. And of course, that may be down to the water quality as well. In Scotland, we've got some pretty damn awesome water. But you can taste that distinctive, it's almost slightly spicier character. It's probably fair to say that bourbon is a bit spicier than Scotch whiskey and Irish whiskey, and Japanese whiskey as well can be a little bit spicy. But you can taste just a little bit of that spiciness in the middle of the palate there. It's really interesting. But around the sides of the palate, the hops in this one they're not too prominent. It's definitely a malt focused beer, but you can pick up some of the hoppy side of things. So in the back corners of the palate, you've got some nice earthy dry character. You can feel that, and as you come further forward, it just smooths out a little bit, and there maybe is just a little touch of a kind of grassiness around the front curve of the tongue there. And overall, the beer is really it's got a good balance between the dry, roasted, bitter characters, and as the flavour progresses, as you start to move more into the aftertaste, it gets drier and drier. More of the earthy character comes out, and the roasted coffee and cocoa, almost black malt character. And this one, it starts to dominate the palate, and the sweetness just subsides a little bit, but it's really nice. There's maybe just a little tiny bit of a red fruity ester in this one. You can just pick that up behind the front curve of the tongue, but that's very, very minimal. It's quite hard to detect that, and that's me as a kind of seasoned beer taster, I guess you would say. So it's a really kind of subtle note in this beer. But yeah, as you would expect from the description, a very heavily coffee leaning stout actually. I was expecting a bit more chocolate from it, but it really is more of a coffee stout. But when it's a breakfast stout, you know, I have to admit I never think of drinking an Imperial stout like this for breakfast. You'd spend the rest of the day pretty hammered actually, unless you're quite a big guy of course. But you know, it's got that kind of coffee caffeine kind of thing that would boost you in the morning. So it's a pretty interesting concept actually. When it's bourbon barrel aged as well, that kind of sort of complex spicy note that the beer has really complements it well and goes with these nice, smooth, kind of earthy coffee flavours that are in the beer. It'd be interesting to know where they got the coffee from that they add to this, because of course that's another dimension to the beer. It's like hops. What variety of hops do you use? What variety of coffee beans do you use? It's a really interesting thing to think about when you're adding these things into the malt base too. So yeah, overall it's a pretty awesome beer, and if you enjoy coffee stouts, you will definitely enjoy this one. This one isn't for people who like sweet stouts. Probably if you're looking more for a sweet stout, you want to look elsewhere, but if you enjoy coffee bitter stouts with a good bit of earthy hop and roasty character, then you will certainly enjoy this, and I can see why they say the breakfast stout. It's got that kind of coffee caffeine kick that you want in the morning when you're a bit tired, you know. But at 12.4%, I wouldn't advise drinking this before you go to your work. It's definitely a dessert beer, this one. It's really nice. But in terms of the mouthfeel, this, I would say it's actually kind of, it's between mid and full-bodied. Yeah, mid to full-bodied, probably leaning more towards the full-bodied side of things. It's got a good oily mouthfeel to it, but it's a bit lighter than some of the sweet Imperial stouts that I've had, and that might be due to the flavours. Maybe because it's that bit more bitter rather than sweeter, it might just be that it feels a bit lighter in the mouthfeel than some of the more sweet stouts, but definitely pushing the full-bodied side of things. There's a bit of oily mouthfeel to it. As you would expect, it's quite a malt-forward beer. There is a bit of sweetness to it, but for me, it's mainly a kind of dark bitterness. There is a bit of smoothness to that bitterness though, if that makes sense. The earthy character from the hops, there's a little bit of dryness there. It smooths out as you come further forward, and there's a teeny tiny bit of fruit, but there's a good balance between the malty sweetness, which is the main focus in the early stages of the beer, but at the back end it starts to become drier and more kind of bitter and roasted. But overall, it's a pretty damn awesome beer. Like I said, the coffee stout is a style that I haven't really gotten too much into. I need to review more of this style on the channel and get a proper feel for it. As I've said before, you'll never see me review an oyster stout because I'm allergic to seafood and I can't have it, but coffee stouts, I love sweet stouts. Coffee stouts are one that I need to get a little bit more into, and on the basis of this one and the other two that I've reviewed on the channel so far, I will keep going with that. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this review. The main point of this one is that this is a damn awesome beer. You wouldn't expect anything else from Founders, especially when it comes to these darker beers. This is really well done. When it's rated 100 overall on Rate Beer, you know, you're going to get a pretty awesome beer. Definitely a dessert beer for me. If you like roasted coffee bitter stouts, you will definitely enjoy this one, so make sure you check it out. But as always, I hope you've enjoyed this beer review. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know your favourite beers from Founders as well. To those of you in Michigan and in the States, let me know some other Michigan breweries and some other American beers and breweries that you'd like to see me review. Always keen to try new beers and breweries, of course. But until the next time, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Make sure you check out my social media things. Always interesting to hear from you guys on there. But thanks again for watching, and I will catch you soon. This was the Kentucky Breakfast Stout, which came in as a small portier beer here to System Bolaget in Sweden. I hope you've enjoyed the review, and I will catch you soon with more beer reviews, and we will return to Founders in the fairly near future, I'm sure. This was a pretty damn awesome beer. If you enjoy coffee stouts and bitter stouts, check this one out. Slange just now.